Hello and welcome to another book review video. Today I'm going to talk about this awesome little book called A Brief Guide to the Getting of Money by Felix Dennis. This is by far my favorite book that I've ever read on money, and I'm only like 20 pages in. Why am I recommending a book that's I'm only 20 pages in, you might ask? Well, because it is the best book I've ever read and it's only 20 pages in, so obviously the rest of it is going to be banging. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do a little bit more than I usually do in a book review video. I'm not just going to talk about it, I'm actually going to reveal some of the things inside of it. As you can see, I've got my notes. You probably can't see that, I showed it too fast. But I've got some notes, so I'm going to give you the first 6 or 7 points. There are 88 points. And what's amazing about this book is that every single point is like literally a page long. It's just a page long, and at the end of every point they have a blank page with notes, so you can write notes. So it's really like a workbook. It's a textbook, if anything. It's quite amazing, and you learn as you go and you write as you go, and you're constantly giving yourself insights. It's a very powerful book. If you like book review videos, you like loving growth, self-development, wealth, health, love, happiness, all that, feel free to hit the subscribe button over here and the notification bell, and you'll get notified of future videos coming out. And while you do that, I'm going to open up the first point. So what he's done here, what Felix Dennis has done here is incredible, because the making of money is not so simple, it's not so straightforward, but once you understand it, it's like boom, it's very easy to produce money. For example, if you have a multimillionaire who gives all of his money to charity and he's now broke, the chances of him becoming a multimillionaire again are a lot higher than the average person, because he has the knowledge, he has the understanding, he knows how to do it, he's done it before, so it's much easier. So that's what Felix Dennis is attempting to do here. He breaks it down in chronological order, what you might go through. So he starts with things like mindset and the general thoughts, and he ends with, and on the ends of things, he talks about, you know, charity and debt and buying jets and stuff like that. So you can see there's a natural progression. He starts with making money and leads you through the whole process, building businesses, creating value, blah, blah, blah. So it's quite amazing. So let's just dive in. I'll give you some points, and please buy this book. Give yourself a Christmas present. Buy this book. In fact, buy it for everyone you know. It's quite an amazing book. So the first point that he said is motive, right? He says, those seeking wealth, the only thing that you really need to think about is one's ability, intelligence, and determination to succeed. And that's only regulated by conflicting desires or fear of retribution, divine or otherwise. So what that means is that all of nature and nurture, that is what he's saying, is a complete delusion. Where you've come from, what you do in your life, what happens to you in your life and how you were brought up is completely irrelevant. The real thing is the motive, the desire to succeed. That's the most important thing. And if you're not successful right now with wealth, it's because of motive as well. It's because you got the wrong motive, usually hidden motives. So that's what he says. He says you've got hidden motives. He says motive makes a fine horse when tamed by understanding and bridled with wisdom. You can see why I love this book. It's quite amazing. So I've got my motives over here. So try and figure out your motives, right? Let's move on to step 2. Excuses. You've got your motive. Now what stops you? Excuses. He says there are 3 valid reasons for not attempting to become rich. 1, I do not wish to be rich. 2, I would like to be rich, but I have other priorities. And 3, I am too stupid to make the attempt. So then he breaks down these 3 excuses, which are the only valid excuses, and he explains why they're most likely not true. The third one, if you're too stupid to make the attempt, first of all, if you're willing to admit that you're stupid, you're probably intelligent enough to be able to make money. I would like to be rich, but I have other priorities. Well, do you have other priorities? And what are those other priorities? Are they genuine priorities, or are they just excuses? And I do not wish to be rich. Is that true as well? Like, we have to question the validity of these things, right? These so-called reasons are technically excuses and half-truths, right? So think about how often you make an excuse which is a half-truth. He explains that excuses are the children of fear and the parents of 1,000 if onlys. Quite amazing. And I drew a little chart here which I'm not sure if you can see. And it's a timeline. So you start as a person with fear. You go through life with excuses and excuses and excuses and excuses, and then you look back thinking, if only. Think about that. That's huge. One of the biggest thoughts of the dying is regrets of things they didn't do. And the reason they didn't do them is because of excuses. So don't live that way. Do not live that way. Don't let the excuses control you. Who is likely to succeed? Number 3. We're going to go through a bunch of these here. Hope you get a ton of value from this, but please do buy the book as well. Anyone in good health and a reasonable intelligence, provided they utterly commit themselves to the journey, can succeed on the narrow road. That's what the book is called. It's The Narrow Road. A brief guide to the getting of money. It talks about being on the narrow road. Stamina is crucial. Work so hard that your best friends mock you. If your best friends are saying you're working too hard, that's a good thing. Your lovers despair, and your rivals and acquaintances watch furtively from the sidelines, half in awe and half in contempt. That is huge. So if you're utterly determined, then you'll get there. So step 1, execution is the ultimate. You have to execute. You have to take action. Step 2, have tenacity. So continue working in spite of failure. And 3 is stamina. That's just holding it out for the long run. So you have to actually commit. Then number 4, he talks about the statistical odds. I won't go into any more than this because the video is getting a little bit long. So he says, only 0.000016% of the 60 million United Kingdom citizens are rich, and less than 1% of the 1% of the population are even comfortably off. So apparently the odds are quite small, right? What are the chances? But then he goes to break it down. He says that 40%, he says that because of other disadvantages such as, and he's not talking about race disadvantages, but mental handicaps or health disadvantages. So he says close to 40% of the people in the UK are either too ill or too old to have any hope of becoming rich, or too young to be able to do it, right? Most people are kids or old people, right? So if you fall into neither of these groups, you're neither too old or too young or too ill, then now you only have 1 in 35 million. You only have 35,999,000 people to overtake if you live in the UK, right? Which is what I do. However, and he continues, a substantial proportion of the population have no desire to become rich or have chosen professions that rule out that possibility. For example, over 5 million people work for the government, right? So that's not going to happen. Your odds, therefore, improve to 28 chances in 1 million. Now look around you, he says. How many of those you work or socialize actually want to become rich? Think about it. How many of your friends and family want to become rich? So he says it's around 2% or 3%, 5%, something like that. So I actually think it's less. I think it's like 1%. But he says, let's say it's 3%, even though that would be a gross estimate. That 3% of the 30 odd million in the reckoning amounts are under 1 million rivals. So now you're only 1 in 1 million, right? To reach the top 1,000 earners, we have shortened the statistical odds to 1 chance in 900. So it went from like 1 in 30 million or something to 1 in 900, because you don't have to be the top richest, but if you're just in the top 1,000 richest, you're very, very well off. You're a multimillionaire, right? So finally, if you're willing to settle for a place within the comfortably off rather than the lesser rich, for example, you just want to make a few $100 grand or a couple of million, then you've now reduced it to 1 in 90. Because there are 300,000 millionaires in Britain today, whenever this was written. So now it's gone from 1 in millions to 1 in 90. So do you think you have a better chance now that you're 1 in 90? So that is absolutely huge. And now I'll just mention number 5 before I close off this video, because this kind of finishes the point. He says on the real odds, ask yourself these 2 questions. 1, to what degree are you prepared to dedicate yourself to the task? And 2, how many times are you willing to fail, perhaps publicly and humiliatingly, that's a long word, before you succeed, right? So how many? He says discipline, confidence, self-belief, flexibility, being lucky, a thick hide, the ability to focus, the knack of learning to listen and the learning from listening, an early inclination to delegate and motivate those around you. Nothing can compete with tenacity. Right? Tenacity is the key. Tenacity will eventually trump all other qualities, whether inherited, acquired, or mimicked. right? So to such a person, if you have tenacity, if you believe that you're willing to set yourself to the task, the odds of success, the odds of becoming 1 in the 90 are completely meaningless, because you will succeed. It's 1 in 1. Like, there's no chances that you could fail if you have those things. And we're only on step 5. You can see why I love this book so much. And number 6 is on getting started. And all that is making a commitment. So to close off this video, I want you to commit yourself to becoming rich by following the narrow road. So commit right now, leave dreams and leave excuses behind, and commit now to have the tenacity, the execution, and the willingness to succeed. And I promise you, you will be able to do it. So let me know in the comments below that you're going to buy this book and you're committing to succeed and become rich. And I welcome you to this incredible community of love and growth. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Have a good day. And buy the book. It's a good book. It's a really good book. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.